So yeah, hello everyone. Hope I'm audible till the back rows. Sure. I do have a strong belief from childhood that backbenchers are the most talented guys in the classroom. Let's see how it works. So firstly, I have single question. How's the Josh? I can't hear it. How's the Josh? How's the Josh? How's the Josh? That's excellent. So now I won't be boring you all with my conceptual and philosophical thoughts. So firstly, it's great to be on TEDxDWPS Noida. The team has taken a lot of initiative and efforts to host us. Thank you for the pleasure. And obviously, TEDx has been a great platform for multiple leaders, including business leaders, political leaders, media leaders, celebs, and multiple other social impact leaders too. And yeah, at SK Associates and Group, that is where I come from. We do support leaders in our own amazing kind of way. So my today's talk is about the story of a child who grew from being one of those introverted first bencher studious kids to one of the most extroverted founders you might have ever heard of. So let's move. Now, amongst a batch of around 120 BBA graduates at MIT University, so I guess most of you might have heard of MIT, right? Sure. So MIT is a very outspoken place where mostly extroverts thrive. We have our own circles, our friendly, circles wherein we stay in just like a pack of wolves and we don't intermingle with others. But amongst this batch of 120 BBA graduates, there was one introvert who had a vision, a very weird vision of becoming an investment banker by the end time when he graduated. He knew that the domain was very difficult, obviously, to strive in, because as most of us know, investment banking is a place where CFA, CA, CS, CMA chart holders strive, right? And even they are finding it difficult to get employment nowadays. So again, coming back to the story, our first bencher introvert used to study in the day, in the night, used to have very strict, rigorous schedules of punctually studying out, well laid out schedules for 1 hour per subject, and did all those kind of nerdy things that we might have read of in novels and seen in our web series. But nonetheless, his life changed when the COVID struck. And that is where I'm coming to. So, we have a story in Mahabharata, you know. Multiple of you might have heard it already. There was a point of time when Dronacharya called all the 5 Pandavas and the 100 Kauravas, asked them to shoot an arrow at the eye of a bird statue which was hanging from a tree branch. So all of them tried it, but nobody could actually hit it, right? And the only person who could actually hit it was louder. Exactly, Arjuna. So Dronacharya said that the person who has his focus only and only on his goal, that is, the eye of the bird, can always achieve his or her goal in life. But the person who is deviated by the surroundings, environment, internal, external factors, any of them, be it the feathers of the bird, be it the tree branches, be it the environment, be it the oncoming and forthgoing wind, which might obviously have shaken the statue a lot of times during the time they were trying to hit it, cannot ever reach the goal. That's the reason Arjuna was chosen by Krishna to be the best and the best warrior we have ever seen in Mahabharata, who stood by dharma and also won the battle. So now coming back, this student was nothing different. He was focused, but COVID was a challengeful time when obviously most of our sources might have outrun at some point of time, right? Teachers were being adapted to teach in a virtual mode. It must have been very difficult for Gen Y and Gen X professionals to adjust. Auditors were very confused. Since I've been into the auditing industry, I know it well. Because auditing is something that happens on a traditional scale, right? We have a checklist, we go on the front line, we audit companies on the basis of our checklist metrics, KPIs and other things. But even auditing was virtual in those days, and every industry adapted. And the worst hit was obviously the youth of India, because as statistics say, India has the biggest number of youths going to pop up in 2030 as compared to any other nation in the world. And so MIT was none different. Most of my graduates, friends, and obviously colleagues were busy, depressed, finding out their own ways of survival. Some were into PUBG. That's one of the most popular game many of you might have played. So how many of you are actually into playing PUBG? Please raise your hands. Nobody? Oh, that's great. Oh, I guess we have one or two. So no offense, but again, it's addictive. So obviously, this was the time when this kid stood up against all these challenges, changed himself, took out various online courses, pursued various degrees, which obviously multiple people of his age wouldn't even mind doing. I did try a CFA in that tenure. I did try CS. Both of them are auditing degrees. In my first year itself, it would have been a very foolish step. And obviously, I did fail twice, but I won and I scored it in the third attempt. But nonetheless, again, coming back to the point, what made the difference is that I was focused towards my goal, irrespective of the challenges, right? The COVID might have seen multiple depths. People in my college were into a lot of things, obviously. That includes relationships, that includes games, that includes traveling, that includes being depressed alone at home. But I did try to make the small change that I was perfectly capable of making. And yeah, I did score a thing. So I got the opportunity, the wonderful opportunity to work with some former judges of Supreme Court of India and Karnataka High Court during the COVID era, because even the judiciary was like coping up with the virtual era in a very strange way. They were adapting themselves to WebEx and everything, and they needed people who could take over the thing a bit more quicker. And nonetheless, post completion of my judicial experiences, I was invited by none other than JP Morgan and Citigroup. Those are two of the most biggest investment banking groups in this world that operate from US. And I did achieve my dream. I did get 3 months of internship, a summer internship, what we call it. I did deal with multiple M&A deals. I helped a company out in US to make acquisition decision in Malaysia, that is in Southeast Asia. And this is how obviously I kept up with the challenge and I stayed resilient throughout all the time. Now, coming back to our point, the only thing that helped me cope up during these times was nothing else but focus. Focus on the eye of the bird. That is the goal that was lying in front of me. And obviously, we have a very popular interview question that HRs ask in every interview almost. Anyone? What is it that you see yourself being in 5 years from now? Right? So I actually saw myself where I was 5 years from then, funding legitimate businesses, not illegitimate like drugs or organ trafficking, nonetheless. So again, so this is my team. We built this team over the COVID era. We met very limitedly, so I have this one golden memory of my team lying there. But nonetheless, we all were from different backgrounds, from law, tech, marketing, MBA, BBA. The only common thing we had was focus. Focus on building an investment bank or a consultancy which could actually support startups, help leaders grow, thrive in an era when actually employment was scarce. We were thinking of doing the next level thing, trying to fund startups or businesses so that they could in turn provide employment, provide opportunities to the depressed youth. Now, again, during this process also, we did face multiple difficulties, the most prominent of them being peer pressure. So teachers here must be very used to hearing that term, peer pressure. So our college was nothing different. Every one of those 120 graduates had a over expectation se bhara hua parent who used to expect a lot of things of them. Some parents wanted their child to directly jump into an MBA. Some kids' parents wanted them to try for a CAT or a ZAT. And some obviously wanted them to pursue a job, and that is how I lost half of my team. One of the biggest challenges, in fact, I faced in the 4 years of my entrepreneurial career is losing my team. Because being young, we tend to develop emotional attachments with a lot of people. Okay, so it just doesn't include a circle of our friends or family members, but also goes beyond that to include our friends. The friends who stood beside us in the hardest of times, and these were them. When I didn't have even enough revenues from the firm to pay out their salaries, they did work for free for me just for, like what, 2 to 3 years. Even that is a very beyond immeasurable thing that a friend can do for you. I lost most of them, but yeah, many survive. And apart from that, the peer pressure always did force them to pursue MBA, do a job for even a major salary. But that is what I came up through. And being honest, I'm from a family that has been into real estate since 2004. That is approximately 25 years. So at 17 years of age, I was also expected to take over that company as a success. I did that very well. We have got 150 plus residential projects in Hyderabad to name. We have even built up a section of the NHAI that came as a tender, that is National Highways. The outer ring road that you might have seen if you have ever landed in Hyderabad airport and then traveled to the city. That was constructed by us. But nonetheless, even after so many, being in real estate especially gives you higher expectation in statistics and figures. Real estate se jo bhi hain, they know very well. What is expected of us is revenues, profit sharing, profit ratio, net profits, EBITDA, and all these financial ratios. Whereas consulting and investment banking is an industry that needs a lot of patience. So imagine that a movie producer came to you and tells you he wants to raise 500 crores of funding for making Bahubali Part 2. So it would be really very difficult for you to get that amount to a movie producer, because movie is just like a gamble. As far as I understand that industry, it might be a hit, it might be a flop. So again, we have dealt with the worst of businesses. And luckily, that is another story yet to share. I'll come through it. But again, launching SKNG was one of my biggest achievements because JP Morgan and Citigroup did offer me a PPO. PPO stands for pre-placement offers, post-completion of my internship. The packages were around 12 to 15 lakhs, and I was graceful enough to deny it. Not because I didn't like the work was what I loved the most, but because by staying and working for a international conglomerate, obviously I cannot start up the grassroots startups, right? The startups are always as the grassroots. The founders don't even know that they have to actually approach an investment banker to get funds. That is like science for them. So they know that we have a company, we need to legally register it, launch it. We can take a business loan, but none of them know that even unsecured loans of 5 crores to 100 crores and 500 crores are granted in today's era. अर्थात श्री कृष्ण अर्जुन से कहते हैं युद्ध में, and Shri Krishna actually spoke this line to Arjuna when Arjuna refused to go to war. He stopped time for a moment. He brought his chariot to the middle of the entire ground, Kurukshetra. He showed him both the armies on both sides, and he told him that your duty is to do your duty. Your duty is to do your duty. It's not to be concerned about the results. That is what the Gita has been trying to tell us from so many years, hundreds and thousands of years. We need to do our duties, not be concerned with the result. That is where actually resilience is all about concerned. Because we might have seen people trying to build a startup or trying to do something of their own. But at the same time, we have also seen them stopping in the way. Why? Because they failed, right? Multiple of you might have tried to participate in a competition, drawing, painting, poster, cultural, anything, but you tried and you failed, so you stopped. So that is the only difference between resilient people and us, people like me who weren't resilient. So again, coming back, our duties must be done, and that isn't just about business, it's about life. If your duty in life is to be a teacher, teach, then teach. Because Rabindranath Tagore did teach. He didn't have a person paying him salaries. That is where Shantiniketan came from. He didn't have a building, he taught under a tree, right? And Shantiniketan today is one of the most renowned Indian institutions after Nalanda University that is still alive, and the world knows it. They can visit it physically. So Nalanda doesn't exist, but that's another story. So again, whatever your duty is must be done, irrespective of however many times you are failing at it. Because even Arjuna wasn't able to win the war in the very first attempt, right? He tried to kill Bhishma. Everyone did try to kill Drona. Everyone did try to kill Karna, but nobody was successful in the first attempt. They had to try again and again and again and again. And if someone as few has actually read Mahabharata in detail, what you might have noticed is that Bhishma almost eliminated 3/4 of Pandava's armies before he was killed by all the Pandavas together, right? So Pandavas were patient in those days. In that 1 week or 2 weeks, whenever Bhishma was actually eliminating their army, they were trying. They didn't leave the battlefield and run away. That is how life is. Even Draupadi, during her Vastraharan, did first call her husbands, right? When Duryodhana came, snatched her hair and pulled her from her room, she did summon her husband. Her husband didn't come. She summoned Bhishma. He didn't come. She summoned Drona. He didn't come. And that was the last time when she summoned Lord Krishna, whom we refer to as Govinda. So, she did try, right? If she wouldn't have tried thrice, and she would have stopped at the third utterance of Bhishma, protect me, and Bhishma would have stepped back. Would we ever hear of the Chirharan? Would it be an example set to us over the decades? Even today, whenever there is a rape or something in the society, every protester does. We see a board there of Draupadi, the Chirharan, some poetry on it, some relevance of it. It would have never have existed if Draupadi didn't try, right? So we have been taught the lessons of resilience since childhood. From the Vedas, Upanishads, has Panchatantra evolved, the Gita, the Mahabharata, all are examples of resilience. But nonetheless, again, we need to read the examples every day to remember it. So, when I was running SK Associates and Group, honestly, for the first 3 years, we didn't make any revenues. Being very honest, perfectly honest. We hosted around 45 business conferences with more than 1,000 to 2,000 CEOs of various companies coming in, sharing their thoughts. We hosted 3 to 4 cohorts of the Student Entrepreneurs Bootcamp, that is a mentorship program for aspiring entrepreneurs. We did register multiple startups, but we never did made revenues. And that is what the difference between two industries lies. Real estate is more about revenues and profits. And consulting, that is the services industry specifically, is about credibility, trust, and resilience, right? It took approximately 200 years for the big fours to rise and become big fours. Am I right? Do you know what is Arthur Andersen Worldwide? Anyone here might have heard of Arthur Andersen Worldwide? Never, right? Arthur Andersen was the founder of Accenture. It was called Arthur Andersen Worldwide till 2001 when the Enron scandal happened. And again, the company shifted its name, separated its auditing wing from its consulting wing, and the consulting wing is what we today know as Accenture. So obviously, it took Andersen 2 lifetimes almost to bring Accenture up to this level. So, in our 4th cohort of Student Entrepreneurs Bootcamp this year, that is when we actually did make a difference. So I was called by the lady you see sitting here in the center with the pink sari. She is Sister Dr. Jacinta Quadras, principal of Maristella College, Vijayawada. So Vijayawada is a... Sure. So the Vijayawada is a small rural area in Andhra Pradesh, and that is where I was invited. The school didn't have funds to pay us for this boot camp, which was of 4 months, which was again preceded by registration of more than 250 startups, and all of them have gone for more than 5 crores of funding per head. That is 250 crores for approximately 50 startups. So again, we did our part. We didn't worry about the results, without revenue coming in or not coming in, and we did our part very well. These 50 girls whom you see here have registered their startups this year, and obviously they are in the funding process under the CGT MSE scheme, that is Credit Guarantee Scheme for Micro and Small Enterprises by the Government of India, which gives you an unsecured funding up till 5 crores. I think this year's union budget has obviously revised the amount till 20 crores, but it has to be implemented. Investor base of 150 plus private investors across India and also across Middle East, which can fund not just a 1 crore business, but also a 10,000 crores metro project of any state government. And now, The college is obviously sending us 500 more of his students, all from an undergrad era, into this mentorship program to help them get access to funding and to obviously help them register their startups. These are some of our most premium investors across India. Now, we have obviously led a lot of initiatives, to be honest, in the last 4 years. But the only ones which have made a lot of impact are three. One is mentoring out 50 rural entrepreneurs. Because if I were given on a comparative scale to choose between mentoring a urban polished Bangalore school student or a rural government school student, I would obviously choose the first one. Because I would think that the urban student would have a better understanding of business than the rural one. But actually we did face change. And how did the girls succeed? By focusing on launching their agri-businesses for approximately 4 months of years. Again, resilience is what they displayed here. So 4 months, bearing up with startup mentorship, working on various areas from market research, design thinking, product development, product launch, website and app development, then its launch, incorporation, compliance that is dealing with audits, funding, reading about various funding schemes, preparing your own fundraising pitch decks. That involves the education of finance, engineering, law, audits, and a lot of other subjects. And they are agri students after all. But that is what they did. Why? Why did they cover so many subjects in a period of 120 days, that is 4 months? Which obviously people do in a period of 10 to 20 years. Just because they focused on their goal. They never let the challenges. And obviously there were multiple challenges. The parents expected them to be married. And that is the honest truth. After registration of their startups this year, we found out that 90% of them wanted to back out from the fundraising process because of their matrimonial issues or their parents' expectations, which are just as parallel to our vision as much as possible. But nonetheless, they did keep trying. And yeah, today we have 250 successful agri-businesses launched from Vijayawada. This is our vision. We see India as a Vishwa Guru in multiple years from now. Not much, but at least by 2050, we aim to build a very good network and robust network of around 50,000 plus auditors and lawyers from across the country. Currently, we have 5,000 plus they are international and national combined. So I am not very proud of that right now. But yeah, I have met 4 former chief ministers of Jharkhand, and I'm yet to meet the governor of various states as well this year. So we all have our focus on just one area, entrepreneurship development, which is the future of this entire nation. But that is possible only when you're resilient. And we also do aim to raise 1 lakh crores in funding for more than 1,000 startups. But I guess that's a shorter term goal to be done by 2030. So again, coming back to the end of my speech, the boy I was talking of in the beginning of my speech, the boy, the one amongst the 120 graduates at the college who actually rejected 2 pre-placement offers from biggest investment banks across the world, that would have been a life-changing opportunity for someone who focused on zero revenues driving firms for approximately 3 years till they started driving impact even. I just one thing to say today. Life is not very smooth. It's going to be rough. But you won't be able to face it unless and until you accept that this is all life is and you have to face it. That is what Krishna did to Arjuna in the Mahabharata. He didn't reduce his struggles and challenges, although he could very easily with a tip of his finger actually change the entire Mahabharata ongoings. He didn't do. What he said is he actually made Arjuna realize his duty. And that is what is important, right? If you realize that life is going to be rough, and if you realize that you have to go and you have to win, irrespective of whatever kind of challenges come in your life, you're going to make it. But until you are ready, best of luck.